In
Today marks a
1977,
new era for
the
American
United States government
transportation.
didn't introduce a new
With the
type of
signing of
seatbelt.
this bill,
It didn't add
we are
airbags or
reforming
roll
how
out any
this city
flashy
moves.
high-tech gadget.
The current
Instead,
draft on autonomous braking
it did
systems
something
is simply
far more
inadequate.
difficult.
If we don't mandate
It required a
stricter
complete
standards now,
transformation
the
of the
consequences
vehicle
will be
itself.
severe.
This wasn't just another regulation. It was a redefinition of what transportation safety meant. That turning point helped shape school buses into vehicles with fatality rates dramatically lower than private cars.
The upgrades
a quiet
improve
revolution
throughput,
unfolded
but the
without
underlying
applause,
structure creates bottlenecks.
yet powerful enough
Right,
to
the
rewrite
redesign
the history of
eliminates that
student
friction
transportation. Let's go back to America in the 1950s and 1960s. At that time, school buses were essentially trucks with windows and rows of wooden benches. There was no modern safety philosophy, no unified national standards, and almost no research into how children behave during crashes. Most manufacturers relied on mechanical logic rather than human science. Build something that runs, carries as many students as possible, and doesn't break down too quickly. During that era,
everyone.
safety was an afterthought. Seats were long metal benches covered with thin fabric.
We
In
maintain high
collisions,
standards, but just across the
children
line,
could easily
different
be
state
thrown from
regulations
their
mean they
seats,
cut corners. Look out.
leading to head and chest
that hit
injuries. No one had seriously considered the unique inertia of a child's smaller body,
The
or how the
titanium alloy held the load at
impact-absorbing
98
properties of seat
megapascals.
materials
Excellent.
could
That exceeds the
directly
safety margin by
influence
20%.
survival rates. The broader American context mirrored the transportation industry itself. Development moved faster than regulation. States created their own standards, leading to massive fragmentation. A school bus in Alabama could be structurally different from one in Oregon. There was no common language for safety design. Then accident reports began piling up. Newspapers spoke out. Parents demanded change. Behavioral science and biomechanics entered the conversation,
The
raising
rezoning
critical
proposal
questions like,
as it
how
stands
does a
is
child's body
unacceptable.
respond to sudden
It
deceleration?
isolates our community
Lawmakers faced
and
a
increases
crossroads.
the commute time
Maintain
for our
the old
students.
model
The
or
forward
adopt a
movement
new
seems consistent
definition
with
of
the previous
safety
file, but the
based
lateral
not on
stability needs
gadgets,
closer review right here.
but on systems. In 1977, the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS, introduced a new set of requirements, a bold moment in American transportation history. Instead of mandating seatbelts for every student, the regulations required the entire interior to function as an active safety device. The most important idea introduced was compartmentalization, often described as the egg carton theory. Rather than restraining motion with straps, this approach limits movement through geometry and materials. Seats had to be taller, thicker, softer, and placed closer together, creating protective compartments around each child's body. What's remarkable is that this wasn't an emotional decision.
As you
It was
can
built
see,
on
the foam
decades of
compressed
child
by 30%
dynamics research,
before rebounding.
where scientists
curve is
tracked the
within
motion
tolerance.
of small crash test
Let's
dummies
examine
during
the seat
simulated
structure now.
impacts. They discovered that children, with softer bones and lighter mass, respond very differently from adults. Three-point seatbelts, while extremely effective in cars, did not provide proportional benefits for young passengers inside large buses.
The
So
data
instead of
confirms the increased
controlling
stress on the cervical
individuals,
spine during the rebound
the
phase.
law
We
shifted
should
toward
increase the restraint
controlling
tension
the
for the next
environment. From that point on, school buses became products of scientific calculation, foam elasticity, seat back height, structural frame, strength. Everything had to pass federal crash standards.
Make sure that
Interestingly,
weld meets the spec.
this revolution was quiet.
I'm showing a
It had
perfect
no
seal on the
iconic
caliper.
technology, no flashy marketing campaigns. Yet it changed how the transportation industry thought about safety, not by adding more devices, but by building a design philosophy. But every policy decision carries a cost. When the idea of installing seatbelts was debated, a paradox emerged. More seatbelts meant fewer seats. Seats with integrated belts required stronger frames, wider spacing, and strict passenger limits. Many buses would lose 10–20% of their capacity. The problem appeared immediately if districts lacked enough buses. Students would walk, ride motorcycles with parents, or share private cars, all statistically more dangerous forms of transportation.
The
An
constraints
economic
mean we
study
have
in
to make difficult
1980
choices.
suggested
cutting
that
the after-school
mandating
programs will
seatbelts
hurt
on
the
large
community.
buses
We
could
understand,
actually increase
but the reserves
overall
are
risk.
depleted.
Its
because
national
the
policy
number of
ensures
students
strict
forced into less
compartmentalization.
safe travel
As you can
options
see, all
might
external
outweigh the
data remains
benefits of
locked
added
and isolated.
restraints. This became a classic systems trade-off. What's safer for an individual isn't always safer for the collective. Financial realities were another barrier. A full seatbelt system could raise the cost of each bus by thousands of dollars, not including maintenance and inspection expenses. With tens of thousands of buses nationwide, the investment was enormous. Many underfunded districts simply couldn't afford. As a result, for decades, national policy remained largely unchanged. Large school buses would rely on compartmentalized interiors rather than seatbelts. This wasn't stubbornness. It was probability-based reasoning, a perspective reinforced by years of data science and economic analysis. But time changes everything. Starting in the late 2000s, states like California, Florida, and New York began reintroducing three-point seatbelts on school buses. What changed?
In the
The
US,
answer
Congress must
lies
navigate
in
both
a
consistent
different
federal
crash
regulations and diverse,
scenario.
complex paths set by individual
Rollover.
states.
The data shows a
Compartmentalization
critical
works
fault line
extremely
here.
well in frontal and rear
Understood.
collisions.
Let's verify on site.
But during a
Okay, the
rollover,
reinforcement looks solid.
seats
You
alone
are clear
cannot
to
control
proceed.
a child's motion. Gravity becomes the enemy. Three-point belts
Yes,
help
we
keep the
cannot
body
ignore
stabilized
the
in
impact of
three-dimensional
comprehensive
space,
belting policies. The data is
reducing the
clear.
risk
But
of
the
striking the ceiling or
implementation here-
windows. Advances in seat manufacturing also made it possible to integrate belts without dramatically reducing capacity. Wealthier states where procurement costs were less of a burden began adopting these upgraded designs. Policy divergence emerged. Federal standards stayed the same, but well-funded states moved toward additional protections. This split reflects the nature of the American system itself: local autonomy, multiple standards, and flexibility based on real-world conditions. Not every state faces the same mountain roads, traffic density, or financial constraints. Yet perhaps the most important takeaway is this: both sides, the with belts and without belts camps, rely on science. They simply optimize for different contexts. And that optimization reveals something deeper. Safety is not an absolute concept. It is the outcome of carefully balanced trade-offs.